Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to our second event of TASA's College Survival Guide series. There are going to be 4 presenters today and we'll introduce ourselves briefly. So hi, my name is CC or Christine if you see my name on Facebook. I'm going to be a 3rd year in the fall studying communications and minoring in stats. And Luke, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Luke. I'm a 2nd-year electrical engineering major and music minor. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything else. And you're Courtney. You guys have
Um, I'm Courtney. I'm going to be a 2nd year and I'm a pre-com major.
And I'm Enya. I'm also a 2nd year and also a pre-com major.
Okay, so without further ado, we're going to dive into things they don't tell you at orientation. Just a little disclaimer, orientation, even if we were to attend in person, is not an accurate representation of your 4 years in college. So that's why this event was made. Just going over our agenda real quick. So first thing we're going to be talking about is tips and tricks with using Gold, which is the system where you pick your classes, how to get involved on campus, budgeting, getting around campus, specifically biking versus boarding, the social scene and the party school stereotype. And we're going to end it with the raffle of Amazon gift cards. We're giving away 2 this time, and that's going to happen at 4:45, so please make sure to stay until then. So Luke is going to, before we begin our presentation, Luke is going to go over who we are.
Yeah, so you probably already know, but we're from the UCSB Taiwanese American Students Association. So our mission statement is that we are dedicated to enriching the college experience for those who share a common interest in Taiwanese culture through social interactions and cultural awareness. Next slide. What this really means is just that we host a lot of social events and we have a retreat. We have stuff like dumpling night, hot pot night, and at our annual night market. And these are just where people who have a shared interest in Taiwanese culture can get together and meet friends. We also have a big little program that Christine will talk about later, which really just gives you a second family and a home away from home. And personally, it was one of the biggest things that helped me transition into college better. And our Facebook and Instagram pages are screenshotted down here. We recommend that you guys join the group and follow us just so you guys will hear about our events later. We will host more summer activities, and during this school year, we'll also have other fun stuff planned. So if you follow us, you'll be able to know in advance. And our surprise announcement is that we have a new pen pal program called T2P2. Stands for TASA Talk Pen Pal program. It's essentially a mostly summer thing where we're going to pair you with a current TASA member who will help you get started with your next 4 years in college. We'll try to pair people based on interest or majors, just so you have someone you can click with and you can ask academic and social related questions too. And the sign up link will be sent in the Zoom chat, presumably now. Courtney or Anya, do you guys want to send it? Is the link sent?
Working on it.
Okay. As they're finding the link, the sign-up form is due this Monday. It doesn't take very long to fill out and it doesn't require any preparation. So please fill it out when you get a chance to, and we will post pairings on our Facebook group that I mentioned earlier, probably next Friday. So please sign up. We really want to get to meet more people. Also, if you know other freshmen who are interested in meeting people or having someone they can ask questions to, please refer the program to them too. They don't have to be in TASA or interested in TASA to participate. All right, so the first section we're going to go over is Gold tips and tricks. If you guys haven't had orientation yet, Gold is our system that we use to pick classes and search for classes, as well as like checking your transcripts and grades. We're going to teach you some tricks as to how you can find classes a better way and pick classes sooner than everyone else which is a huge deal when it comes to orientation and your course picking times. First, at orientation, they tell you to search up the class by like the department, for example, math, and the specific class you want, which is like 3B, 4A, 6A, 6B, stuff like that. And from there, they want you to just like click add after you found the specific one you want. But we do have a trick where you should use a 5-digit number on the first column of gold when you search up classes. If you write down this code and it is your pastime and you type that code into Control F, you will, like Chrome will take you to that specific class that you're looking for. And that, even though it's just like a 1-second difference, it does change your entire 4 years in college. Someone's asking if we're freshmen and we haven't officially joined yet, do we just say we're part of TASA on the form when it asks? If you guys aren't in TASA yet, you should probably indicate that you aren't, because we want to pair TASA members with non-TASA members. In other words, we want to pair people who are already in college with people who aren't in college yet. So if you haven't joined, even though you do plan to, which is great, you should indicate that you're not a TASA member yet. Are there any more questions about T2, P2 before I move on? Okay, I'll go to the next slide then. All right, so for you to find the classes, so yeah, we've told you that you can use the 5 to get to the class you want faster when it is your pastime, but what if you're trying to look for classes that suit your requirements? So one thing that isn't very often gone over in orientation is the advanced search button in gold. So when you go to find courses, next to the search button is switch to advanced search. And this is most helpful for GEs because oftentimes you'll come into college maybe with 1 or 2 classes fulfilled, but there are often other ones, like maybe you have 1 in area D or 1 in area F. And oftentimes it's very hard to find a specific one that fulfills. So when you use advanced search, you can put in like you're in College of Letters and Science, and then put in the area you're looking to fulfill. And once you click begin search, it'll take you through all of the classes where that requirement is fulfilled. And in advanced search, you can also click like certain times that you want or how many units you want. And course levels like lower div, upper div. It's very thorough and it goes through all of the possibilities you may have. So that's something we do recommend that you use, but not during your pastime, but in advance when you're planning out what classes you want to take. So that leads to the next point. So when you're planning courses, a big deal is how many units you're taking. So at orientation, it's often told by some orientation staff that, oh, you can't take more than 14 units or you can't take more than 16 units. And the thing is, like, these are merely recommendations. Personally, I took like 20 units in fall quarter, but some people take less than that, some people take more, some people do follow the recommendation and take exactly 14 or 16. It's really up to you. Just know that if you do want to take if you do want to take more classes, you aren't limited to what they tell you at orientation. However, just be careful because not all 4 unit classes are equally difficult or easy. At orientation, I think they tell you like 1 unit is equivalent to like a certain amount of study time. It's not really accurate because some 4 unit classes are really easy and you don't spend any time on it, whereas other 4 unit classes are worth like supposedly like 8 or 12 units at once. So it really depends on the kind of classes you're taking. Typically, if all of your classes are STEM, try not to take too many. Oh, someone's saying you can't sign up for more than 15 units because of this cap. Yeah, so I think for orientation, I think
It's the
orientation
past
gives you the
one.
past 2 time, right?
Past 1.
We get past 1, but they get past 2. Yeah, so they do limit you to 14 units on gold, but yeah, that's what happened at our orientation as well. They do check before you leave to make sure you don't have more than 14 units, but eventually after orientation, you can still add more within that time. Or if you're in pass 3, which opens up later during the year, you can do more. And even if your orientation leaders don't allow you to, and for some reason they're really strict about it, you can always go on Gold and file a petition to take more units, or you can talk to your advisor and your advisor will definitely be okay with it. Just know that like they make it seem like 15 units is really scary, but in reality, it's not that bad depending on what you're doing. And if you felt like in high school you worked really hard and you were able to manage a lot of things, like you shouldn't feel held back. Yeah, I think, are there any other concerns about unit caps? Because I know that's one thing that they really reinforce at orientation.
Or if you guys think of any questions later, you can ask us in Q&A later.
But yeah, Cassie also talks about wait lists, and we can talk about that in the Q&A too. But yeah, it's definitely possible to sign up for more in Pass 3. Yeah, so once you've figured out what classes you want to take, regardless of how many units, I think in orientation they do tell you like, oh, you should write it out, or they might give you a piece of paper. But what I do personally is I make a spreadsheet. I screenshotted mine here. I think spreadsheets are the best way to plan it out because you can easily like delete stuff, edit stuff, and so on. For here, I made one box for each year, and within it, I did 3 quarters because you have 3 quarters in each school year. I think the key things you want to write down is the class and probably what it's about, as well as how many units it is, and make a total of that so you keep track of what you're doing and how many you're taking. To plan this out, you should use laser? Lazar? I never heard of it. Yeah, the booklets, like I know for College of Engineering, we have gear. Use what they give you to plan it out, but don't just use what you've been given by orientation and just write all of your course planning on those booklets because you might lose it or it's kind of hard to play around with the schedules if it's already printed out. We do recommend that you plan out at least 1 to 2 years at minimum. For me, I plan out all 4 years, but obviously it will change as you go on. Like by your 4th year, this happened to me in high school too. By the time you leave college, your 4-year plan will be completely different from what it started out like. However, it's still good to have a plan because making that plan means you have a goal in mind, and having a goal-oriented motivation like really helps you progress through college, and it keeps you up in your classes and makes sure like you're passing these classes so you can do more later on. I see a lot of questions. Is there a certain site where people talk about which? If you want to hear about classes, Rate My Professors or r/UC Santa Barbara on Reddit. Those are pretty good resource. Otherwise, if you have specific ones you want to ask about, we can talk about it in Q&A too, because a lot of us have covered multiple majors and we probably have taken the classes freshmen are able to take. Yeah, can you get into a full class if the professor gives you an ad code? Is this a normal acceptable thing to do? One thing that the professors will emphasize is that they aren't in charge of the course selection stuff. That's all the advisors. So even if you do email a professor, they'll be like, I want you in maths, but I don't have any of the ad codes and I can't really do much about it. So it's honestly more useful to just email your major advisor. Depending on your major, we might be able to help you find it later on in Q&A, but you want to email your advisor and maybe they'll give you an ad code, which might be able to bypass the class size. Yeah, I think that's it regarding forming a plan. Do we want to move on to the next section?
Do you want to talk about the screenshot on the right, about like the
Oh, right.
quarterly?
Yeah. Okay, so I forgot to mention that. So on the same document, for me at least, I have a second sheet where I plan out for each quarter what my schedule is going to look like. Because unlike high school where you just choose the courses you want, in college, as you probably already know, you have to choose the specific times. And that means sometimes there will be time conflicts. And to make sure that doesn't happen during your course, what I do is I make like a mini calendar on Google Sheets where I label like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and like from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is when classes usually are. From there, I kind of like block out specific times for the classes I have, make a pretend schedule based on what I'm gonna pick. This helps me plan out like how much time I have in between, or like it just really helps you visualize your schedule. And on right next to my schedule, I'll put down the 5-digit course codes that I mentioned earlier, just so I'll pull the spreadsheet up when it's my pastime and have gold on another window. And then I can just look back and forth and get my classes picked as quickly as possible. This technique actually helped me a lot during orientation. I remember being able to get out like after my pastime within like 5 minutes and be able to go home pretty soon. So yeah, I recommend planning your years out, like what courses you have to take, and then planning the specific times for each.
So classes aren't the only component in your college experience. Extracurricular activities also make up a huge part of your college experience. So for incoming students, the easiest way to make friends is through clubs and orgs. There are generally 3 types. First one is cultural orgs, second one is Greek life, third one is passion clubs, and I'm going to kind of go over them in more detail. So for cultural clubs and orgs, it's basically like us, TASA. They usually have Big Little pickup season in the fall quarter, or sometimes also in the winter quarter. What Big Little pickup is basically for incoming students or for students that are not already in the club. They pair you with another member, and this member kind of serves as your older sibling or like your mentor, and you're put into a family. And even if you miss their pickup season, you can still become a member and participate in their events. So some cultural orgs on campus include TASA, which is us, VSA, which is the Vietnamese Student Association, CASA, which is the Korean American Student Association, KP, which is the Filipino Union, and also NSU, which is the Japanese Student Association. There are more. I'm not familiar with them, but there are other cultural orgs as well. And then second one is Greek life. So this is your like professional and social fraternities and sororities. Usually during non-COVID times, they would recruit right when school starts. And professional fraternities and sororities usually recruit 2 times per year. If you have any questions about, or if you're interested in joining a professional fraternity, I'm actually in a business fraternity, so feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Last one is passion clubs. Just like its name suggests, it is basically clubs and orgs that you might be interested in, like a hobby or something. So some of them include club sports, and they recruit during fall quarter. What club sports basically are, it's like, imagine like your high school sports team. It's more low commitment, but you still get to travel and play games. And then they're also career related, such as like finance or data science clubs. If you're into dance, I know there's an urban dance club, a breakdancing club, and a ballroom club. We also have a few a cappella groups on campus, and they actually have like a few benefit concerts, I think, throughout the year. There are also political justice clubs and religious organizations, and there's also an outdoor adventure club where they basically go kayaking together or rock climbing. It's kind of cool.
Oh, can I also add something? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so oftentimes I realize there are also a mixture of these clubs. So sometimes there are passion and cultural clubs. For example, there's like SACE, which is the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, or Los Ingenieros, just like the Hispanic Engineering Club. So oftentimes you can find a mixture of different kinds of clubs in it. And there are also like kind of like ASB in high school, like for different like departments. Like I'm in engineering student council, which is a mixture of ASB and my major, which is like engineering.
Yeah, thank you. And something to note is that for all these clubs and orgs, it's important to try them out because they have, each of them kind of have their different personalities. So you kind of want to go meet the members to see what type of people you vibe with. And also for the pen pal program that Luke mentioned earlier, it's different from our Big Little pickup season. So don't worry about that. You're not going to be forced into TASA or anything. And besides clubs and orgs, there are also a lot of jobs on campus. So one thing I would recommend is to download Handshake, and Handshake is a platform similar to LinkedIn or Indeed, if you're familiar. And basically, employers use Handshake, this platform, to advertise on-campus jobs, or basically jobs around Ivy or Santa Barbara area. And at the beginning of, or not at the beginning, but usually in every quarter, there's a career or internship fair. Usually the one at the beginning of the year is geared more towards third and fourth years because they're looking for summer internships or they're looking for post-grad jobs. But of course, if you're an incoming student, you're definitely welcome to go. So for the career and internship fair, they actually held a virtual one in spring quarter. And how it worked was like they used Handshake, and you could enter a chat room with employers or a potential company that you want to join. And you basically introduce yourself through the chat and send in the resume. I heard it was super disorganized, so hopefully they'll come up with something, a better system in the fall. And then for on-campus jobs, I'm separating them into generalized and specialized. So for generalized on-campus jobs, these are the jobs that are more low commitment. They're really easy to learn. You basically learn what you have to do on the spot. These include like working at the dining hall, working at the gym, or what we call like the rec center, or working at the library or the printing services center. And for these, they're low commitment because there are so many other students that are basically like doing the same job as you. And for pay, it's usually around minimum wage. And then for specialized on-campus jobs, as the name suggests, they are more specialized. The employers expect you to stay longer, so it's higher commitment. And it's not a lot, like not a lot of students get hired for a specific position. So areas in this include like working in the special collections in the library, or the development office, or like working as an office assistant. And usually these salary is like, it's like higher than minimum wage. And then for on-campus jobs, they really like advertising flexible hours, but it's important to note that it's actually not as flexible as you might expect because they have so many student schedules to accommodate, especially for the generalized jobs. And so the good thing though is that for on-campus jobs, they do let you have less hours when it's during like midterm or final season, so that's good. And also there's limited hours, but it's around like, I think it's a little bit higher than minimum wage, but it's like if you want more hours, you should not work on campus. And then one thing I heard before I went to college was that your job in college has to be relevant to your future career. So this is false because there are so many other opportunities on campus to kind of build up your skill set. So some include like joining a career-related club, like I mentioned earlier, or maybe taking up some research opportunities, and research opportunities aren't limited to pre-bio or like pre-chem majors. Humanities also has research opportunities, or you can maybe become an officer in a club or an org, or maybe like engage in some passion projects in your free time. And also, if you've never had a part-time job before, I would definitely recommend just taking whatever you can at first.
Oh, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is true that you should go for whatever you can. And honestly, on-campus jobs are probably some of the best that you will be offered. So be very open-minded about it. However, I would feel bad if I told you guys to work at the dining commons. Like, so many people I've heard who have worked there all quit because it was such a miserable experience, or there was so much like physical and like mental damage to them, like from like all the plates are like working there nonstop. So like if you are looking for on-campus jobs, try to go for like anything but the dining commons. Not saying like you shouldn't go for the dining commons, but other ones would be nicer.
I think the most laid back one is the printing services one. But
Definitely.
since
And
I'm
the
not sure about
library.
how, oh yeah, or the library. But since like, or I guess campus will be open, but I'm not really sure how that would play out. Okay. So whether you take up a part-time job or you don't take up a part-time job, college does get expensive. So we're going to move on to budgeting.
All right, so besides like tuition and housing, you're gonna have to worry about other expenses like food and class materials always, transportation, snacks. So with that being said, yeah, college can get pretty expensive. So for class materials, you want to make sure you search the web before purchasing any class materials. Like if you want to go to the bookstore, you might find a book for like up in the hundreds, but you can go to, let's say, UCSB Free and for sale, or Z Library or Library Genesis. These are like two websites that are really good for finding ebooks. You'll save a bunch of money. I know during my first year, I got like most of my textbooks from Z Library, and I think I saved like upwards of like $200. But yeah, all of this goes for like eye clickers, books, and lab materials. But there are some exceptions, like physics and chemistry lab notebooks. You have to purchase from the UCSB bookstore just because I think it's like special. I'm not sure, but next is the food and meal plan. I know that I started out with 14 meals at the beginning of last, I guess, fall quarter, and I switched like in 2 weeks because 14 meals was like too much. So 10 meals might be good enough. These meals also do not roll over, so you want to make sure you finish them each week. You might want to bring some snacks over to Santa Barbara too, because snacks, like food is pretty expensive there and you can't find a lot of variety. Yeah, there's like no Asian food here. And like, yeah, it's pretty expensive too. As for transportation, freshmen don't really bring cars up to to SB just because it's expensive to pay for parking. So you want to take the bus. I'm not sure about now because like COVID and everything. Not sure if that's safe or not, but free bus rides are included in your student fees, so take advantage of that. Okay, so next you want to keep track of your spending, just to like keep a monthly budget or something because that's like really important. So personally, I use Mint, which is like a little app that's like super useful, just on my phone. You can like open up and create yourself a pie chart or something like this. And oops, I don't know if you can see that, but basically it connects right over to your bank account, and you can tag items like, say if you get like allowance or a scholarship, you can just like put that under either income or scholarships. And if you buy someone a gift or you spend money on a textbook, you can use it towards gifts, or you can put it towards education. So it's like really useful. You don't really have to worry about it, just check in from time to time. But there are also Google Sheets, which Anya will tell you a little more about because she has more experience with it.
Yeah, so I think like the aesthetics and everything of the Mint app is really nice, but I personally prefer using Google Sheets just because I like spreadsheets and there's a lot more like customization with spreadsheets in general. And Google has like a template for monthly budgets that you can use. And it's not limited to just like your monthly expenses. It can also be like an annual thing depending on how you want to use it. And yeah, I guess I just like spreadsheets better because it forces me to be extra conscious of what I'm spending because you have to like manually input everything that you spend money on. So on the next slide, if you guys don't know where this is, if you go to Google Drive, you click New and then hover over Google Sheets, then you can see the templates and find monthly budget. And yeah, that's how you find it. So next we're going to talk about getting around campus. So walking is great, but it's not the fastest way to get to class. So, sorry, moved on. Okay, so pros and cons. For bikes, they're usually faster than walking and skating, which is why I prefer using a bike. There are also bike paths everywhere, and you have right of way. And bikes have the option of having extra space, like if you have a basket in front or a cargo rack. There are cons though. Bike paths can be pretty intimidating if you're not used to like biking or not that comfortable with it. There's a lot of traffic, especially during rush hour, and you do have to take time to find a parking spot and lock up your bike. So, yeah. So I have a bias towards biking just because I had a horrible experience falling on my ass while skating the class. So Courtney's going to jump in and talk about boards.
Okay, so boards. The biggest pro is that you can skate where you can't bike. Basically, this means that you're not limited to skate paths like how you usually are with the bike paths at UCSB. There are a ton of them. That's a really big pro for bikes. But the thing is, you can basically skate on any flat terrain if you don't see like a fine board thing just hung up there. You can get to class easily. Another pro is that boards are lightweight and convenient. You don't need to find a parking spot, and you don't need to lock it up, unless you're really worried about that, but you usually don't have to be. You can take it into class with you. That's like the best thing ever. You can just keep it in the back, or you can keep it at your feet. I usually just go into class and put it in the back of the lecture hall. I mean, this is kind of relevant for now, but just keep it in mind. A few cons though. Pedestrians are pretty slow. You have to share the road with them from time to time, like almost always. This means you have to navigate your way around people. Some people will just like walk in front of you like really slowly, and you'll have to like keep braking. And the con that kind of ties into this is that there's a higher learning curve. So it can get a little scary to learn how to skate rather than biking. There will be little pebbles that will get you. So maybe invest in some bigger wheels. It might also get scary if you're going like fast. I know that I've fallen like maybe once or twice going like really fast, just tripping on a tiny little pebble that got in my way, but yeah.
Yeah, and obviously biking and skating aren't the only ways. You can definitely rollerblade too. I have friends who do that, and that's really cool. So, yeah. So next, types of bikes and where to buy them. So the three main types are fixies or single speed bikes, beach cruisers, and mountain bikes. We recommend getting fixies just because they're lightweight, affordable, and overall well suited for our campus. Beach cruisers are kind of big, and it might be hard to find parking spots, and they are a little slower. And then mountain bikes are just like more expensive, and also because our campus is flat, you really don't need all the gears unless you really want a mountain bike. That's cool too. Where to buy them? Just like with class materials, you can search on Free and for sale, or go to Ivy's bike shops or the CSO bike sale at the beginning of the school year, I think. CSO stands for Community Service Organization, and they're also who registers your bikes. It's also not recommended to transport your bike all the way to UCSB. Yeah, a little inconvenient. And then the last thing I want to talk about is bike security and budgeting for your bike. So the two main types of locks are U-locks and cable locks, and we recommend getting both just for extra security. You want to try to tie up or like secure like the most valuable parts of your bike, because people like to steal your wheels or bike seats, or like, I don't know, just like try to tie everything up with that cable and U-lock, and keep your spare key somewhere safe. Also, at the beginning of the year, you should get your bike registered with CSO. That picture in the middle there is of like your bike license plate kind of. It's basically so that if your bike does get lost, they can identify who it belongs to. And it only costs $10, and you have to bring your ID, and it's really fast and easy. As for budgeting, if your budget for a bike is $200, you should probably aim for a $100 bike. just because you might get it stolen or something might happen to it and then you have to buy a second one.
So speaking of security, another aspect is like personal security, especially when you're out on the social scene. So as all of you probably know, UCSB is known as like a party school, and there is that stereotype linked to it. But in reality, it's really no different from other parties at other major universities. But we do have a few like pieces of advice or recommendations. So the first one is before the social event, make sure to eat and to stock up or to load up on carbs and proteins. What this is important because it'll basically kind of like give you a cushion for your stomach for the alcohol to absorb. And pre-gaming is kind of a tradition. So what this is basically you drink or do whatever with your friends before you get to the venue. And then if you're looking for a place, you can always head out to Del Playa, or what we call DP. It's basically the street that is on the beach, and there are a bunch of like houses there. You can also go to fraternity, sorority houses or clubs. And one thing to make sure is to maybe have like a pepper spray keychain linked to your dorm key or your apartment key. And this isn't only for when you go out to the to social events, but it's on the daily. Like you should have it on the daily. During the event, there are usually no bathrooms, or the bathrooms are really dirty, or there's a long line. So make sure you use the bathroom before the event. This is also one reason why I would say like people like to pregame, because like alcohol is already in the system and they would just go to the bathroom before they head out. And another thing is that usually drinks are served in, or not served, like given in like a larger cup, or like a red Solo cup, or in like a small paper like shot cups. And so like if you do go out to find your friends and you want to leave your drink somewhere, don't do it. Just like hold on to your drink while you're looking for your friends, or like going to the bathroom if there is one. But at the same time, make sure you don't hold your drink and walk on the streets, because people will, or like the CSO or the police will come question you. For those of you that are concerned with like peer pressuring, none of that really exists actually. I feel like people are just too busy looking out for themselves and looking out for their friends to even like try to peer pressure you. And which brings me to the third point, which is look out for your friends. It's really important to stick in a group, and also it's more fun when you're in a group, right? So after the parties usually end at 9 a.m. Or sorry, not 9 a.m., 12 a.m. And they basically start at 9 p.m., but nobody goes at 9 p.m. Like people usually show up around maybe like 10:30 or so. And so you can like have fun for like two hours or so, and then you just gotta dip because there's like regulations on sound after 12 a.m. And when you leave, just like go home or go to your friend's house or whatever, but just don't sit on the curb, because if you sit on the curb, that means you're not well enough to like walk, and then that just shows that you're intoxicated, and the police or the CSO will actually come question you. That basically concludes our presentation. This is kind of like our agenda for our next two events. So our next event is in 2 weeks, also on a Friday at 4 p.m. It's called Top Freshie Mistakes, and we will also have like a panel talk about dumb things that they've done their freshman year, and so that you guys can avoid them. And then at the end of August and around like September, we'll be releasing some short clips on YouTube, just giving you guys like a UCSB virtual tour / like a day in our life vlog type of style. And so hopefully that'll help you guys transition. And thank you for coming. I think it's 4:45, so let's do our raffle.
Once we do call out your name, please PM your email or something to Christine, who's the host, or phone number or something could work too. And then we'll send the gift card to you as soon as possible.
Okay, so